It's a great day. My name is Shay Brown, the Happy Entrepreneur, and welcome to the Happy Entrepreneur Show, the #1 business development and revenue focused late night show in the country where we're on a mission. And our mission is to empower. Our mission is to inspire. And our mission at the end of the day is to provide you, the hard-working entrepreneur, with all of the resources that are necessary to execute that big vision you have for the people you were called to serve. And on this particular episode, we have the one and only Sheree, or Dr. Sheree, who's in the building. Talk about the will to win and overcoming adversity. What's going on, Dr. Sheree? How are you?
I am good. How are you?
Good. Now, we have this topic. The folks will figure out your bio. They'll read all about you. They'll Google you. But I'm curious, overcoming adversity. My #1 question, just starting off, I'm always curious, why do folks struggle with just overcoming adversity? And if you can, when you talk about that, just define what is adversity to you in your mind. Is that a setback? Does that mean Shay stomped his toe this morning? Does that mean my car didn't start? I mean, is adversity the same thing as a setback? So it's a two-part question, ladies and gentlemen. She can handle this. #1, what is her definition of adversity? And then #2, why do people struggle to overcome adversity?
So adversity is the main thing that people struggle with. There's definitely a difference between adversity and bouncing back. Adversity is those struggles that keep going. It's kind of like the tides from the ocean that just washes over you. That is what adversity is. And we experience adversity in different ways. It could be through your family traumas, personal traumas, just life. As the kids say, life is lifing. So when you have these financial woes, those are challenges that are not easy to bounce back from. And the bounce back is how you get up. So the adversity is what you experience, but the bounce back, that's the mindset. That's how you get up. It's a decision to overcome, to get up.
Now, you mentioned on here, which I thought was pretty interesting, the will to win.
Yes.
And this is going to sound like overly simplistic, but I'm curious, what's your definition of the word will? So we can all be on the same page. And is the will something you can learn? Is the will something that just comes inside of you? So it means different things, different people. So, ladies and gentlemen, my question to her is, what is her definition? Because we all be on the same page of the will.
So there's a poet that I love. His name is Burton Braley, and he actually has a poem entitled "The Will to Win." And just the first stanza says, "If the will to win is if you want a thing bad enough to go out and fight for it, to work day and night for it, to give up your time, your peace, and your sleep for it. If only the desire of it, just the thought of it, makes you quite mad enough, never to tire of it, makes you hold all other things tawdry or cheap for it. If those things happens in your life and you're finding yourself looking at that and you're dreaming about something, just like Burton Braley describes so eloquently if it's in his poem, that is the will. It's the desire that's inside of you. Unfortunately, no one can give that to you. It has to come from within you. However, as you can see in the background, those are all my certifications. I'm a licensed therapist. So I come from a mindset that even though it has to come from you, I believe that you can go see someone like myself or even a life coach that can help you get that fire burning. It's no different than if you had a fireplace and the fire were to go out and you just have to put some more logs on and ignite it. We are here to help. That's what my job is. I help to ignite that will, that je ne sais quoi.
Now, at the risk of not saying empathetic, I guess is the word, I'm not going to say just any particular culture, but why do some people, myself included, why do we have this resistance to speaking to counselors like yourself and the work that you do? You do good work. And I'll be the first to admit, I hate going to talk to you guys. You always want to talk about what happened in the past, and I always want to talk about what happened in the future. But I've found that it's been so helpful to me. So the reason I'm asking the question, it might be other people out there like Shay Brown that's like, we don't do that in our culture. We don't do that. I go to church. I pray. I'm fine. Or I can figure it out by myself. Here's the question. Why do people have this high resistance to talking to someone like yourself? And why, from your view of the world, should they at least be open to finding the right person?
So I'm going to use myself as an example. Before I became, a therapist, I lost a child and I was highly suicidal. I needed help and didn't even realize how much help I needed. And in my culture, I consider myself Black woman. We are told that you cannot share those types of things, that what happens in your family should stay in your family and you shouldn't share. It's a stigma tied to it, saying that if you need to rely on someone else to help you feel a certain way, then that's not of God. But I just simply don't believe in that, because it is the same therapist that literally has gotten me to where I am now. They help you to find things about yourself that you just may not see that is at your disposal. So it's important for you to have that therapist, because they're going to challenge you in ways that your family will not. But they're also culturally sensitive, at least they're trained to be. So if you have a good therapist, because this therapy, I think, is like your clothes size. If you don't have the right size, you need to get another therapist. So if that person's not working, you got to get another one. But it's 1000% important. It's the matter of, do you have the will to win, or I just won't win at all. That's literally what we're dealing with when you're talking about the difference of not having a therapist to having one.
We're going to get into your backstory in a moment, because I know folks are curious, who is this woman? Who's doing all this talking? What's her backstory? What led her to doing what she's doing right now? But before we do that, you kind of cracked the door a little bit and said, hey,
Mhm.
you got to get yourself a good therapist, right? Take a
1000.
moment, if you would, and if you were speaking to your best friend on the other side, and say,
Mhm.
well, I got a question. What are maybe three characteristics that I should look for in a therapist? Or maybe what are three questions I should ask? Because how do I know? Am I supposed to just call and say, because they got a few letters behind their name, they're perfect for me? So again, this is a loaded question, but hopefully you can help our audience out there. They might be curious. So here's the question. What are three questions that maybe someone could ask to make sure it's the right therapist? Or what are some
Mhm.
three things they should look for so they can try to make sure they're getting the right match?
So for me personally, I need to find someone that's personable. If you're very tight and stiff, I am probably not going to talk to you. I need to know that where we're sitting and where we're talking is a safe space, meaning I should be able to tell you anything about the woes that I'm having with my toddler son, any of that. And you should not, or I should not feel that you're going to look at me in such a way and judge me for that. And then the other thing is that I should be able to tell you 1000% anything, and that it's safe. Like, no matter what, I'm safe. Currently, like, my therapist happens to be a Caucasian woman, and most people would look like, what are you talking about? Initially, I wanted a Black woman, but it just so happened that after COVID, it was really difficult to find a very good therapist. So a lot of our therapists needs therapy. And it just so happened this woman, she was so personable. I felt like I was talking to someone that I knew. And that was really important to me, that I could talk to somebody that got me. I didn't have to explain too much. They just got me. And I did not feel judged. I felt like I could tell them anything. And I felt like there was a load lifted off of me when I did.
I'm glad you found the right person for you. Thanks so much for sharing. And what's your backstory? Who are you? Some people are going to read the bio. Others are working now. Others are having dinner. Somebody might be in the gym. Somebody might just download the podcast and can't even see the bio. So take a
Yeah.
moment, if you can, and tell us, who are you? What's the backstory that led you down this path that you're now doing, the type of work that you're doing today, which we're very appreciative, Doctor.
Yes, I am a Philadelphia native, coming from very, very, very humble beginnings. My parents did not have a whole bunch of money, but the house was filled with love. Like all families, we definitely had our challenges. I experienced my parents divorcing, but my life literally had a turn right around the time that I was about, maybe I would say 32. I was married at that time, and I suffered 23 miscarriages and a stillbirth. And at that time, that was the most devastating thing to me. And like I said before, I felt so depleted. I didn't know who I could talk to. I couldn't go to my family and tell them that I was feeling this way, because they just couldn't understand that. In most cases, I would have been told, just pray. That's what God is for. You pray. But God created therapists. So I literally could not find a therapist. They told me I had to wait, like, I think it was 6 weeks or so at that time. But at that time, I wasn't even sure if I could keep myself safe, because I just lost a child. Like, I walked out of a hospital pregnant, but walked out without a baby. And that's just not something that any woman should ever experience. And it can play a mind game on you. And at that point, I did contact a therapist. And I remember thinking, at the time I worked in a law firm, and I remember thinking, no woman should ever, or family member, individual should ever have to be told that if they're going through a crisis in their life, that they should have to wait 6 to 8 weeks to see anyone, especially when you need help right now. There's those times when they say in the midnight night hour, you need that answer that then and there. And I just, at that point, I was like, there's a different way. I have to be the solution to this problem. I went back to school, and I became a licensed therapist, and I have never looked back since.
Wow. And what do you enjoy most about what you're doing these days?
I work with children primarily that's been sexually assaulted, so it's not the fun part. None of it is fun, but I get to see people bounce back in a way that you could not ever, ever, ever think or imagine. These are kids that literally, they can't even look you in the face because horrible things have happened to them. But by the time they leave your office, they're looking you in your face. They're not a victim. They took it on, and they're just like, this is a story. Happens to be my story, but I'm not a victim of that. And I get to see that people invite me into their lives, and I get to change their lives for the better. Not because I have this magical thing, is because they put in that work. They had the will. And if they didn't have it when they sat on my couch, by the time they left that first session, that intake session, there was something kindling, and they're like, I think I can do that, and I can work with that. So that's what it was for me.
Yeah, as I'm listening to you now, I'm just curious. You talk a lot about having the right mindset as well,
Yep.
and I know you work with these kids, but I like to believe the same principles may apply to adults as well. What
1000%.
are, if you had to give us, I don't know, three, four, or five tips, let's call them ideas, that someone could do to overcome adversity? You said, hey, if you're out there right now and you're going through something, again, I know it's a big, broad audience, a lot of different folks, a lot of different places and spaces in their life, but just say, I'm going to give you guys maybe five things, maybe
Yeah.
three, but let's say five. Ladies and gentlemen, I asked for two extra because, I'm special. But five that they could do to help them overcome adversity, and really do the things they want. And I want you as your home listening with not so much the ear that I'm in deep, deep pain, but so can some of these tips help me just get to another level in my life, another level
Mhm.
of comfort, a mental clarity? I mean, there's a lot of things that Dr. Sheree does over here as she's listening. There's a good benefit. So here's the question. What are five things or three things that someone could do to overcome adversity?
Yeah, so we're going to take it like as if we're packing for a trip on an airplane. The first thing, you have to have a will. You have to have a desire. Before anyone purchases a plane ticket to go anywhere, they have to know where they're going. They have to know an idea where they think they want to go. So that starts with the will. I want something better. Just the thought alone is the first step, right? The second step would be to pack your clothes. If you're going on a trip, if you're going to someplace warm, you pack for something warm. If you're going to someplace cold, you pack for things that are keeping you, I'm sorry, well, in reverse. If you're going to a warm place, you pack lighter. You want to be cool. And if you're going to a place that's cold, you pack heavier because you're going to be cold. The same thing goes for when you're looking for a therapist. You want to look for someone that you can unpack, and that that you're going there, they're going to unpack your trauma the way it is. So, for example, if you have couples issues, you don't want to go to a therapist that doesn't do couple issues, because that's not what they do. You want someone that's well versed, that can do like cognitive behavioral therapy, that can really get down to the nitty gritty. So the third thing, just like any good travel plan, you have to know exactly what's on your ticket, right? So if this therapist that's doing these things, you want to make sure that they are well versed in what they do, and they are well credentialed, and they have education to support what they're doing, because you want to make sure that they're not just doing what they think was great 20 years ago, even though those things may help, but there might be something more innovative and on the cutting edge of great. And you want that. You don't want what was on the shelf 20 years ago. So the fourth thing that you definitely want to do is know where your button is. There's a button on the airplane that you can push for when you need access to a flight attendant. Know where your help is. So I would say, those close people to you, pick three of them. three people that can encourage you outside of your therapist. And the reason why I'm saying that is because when you're in therapy, the therapist clearly will be there to assist you. But when you're outside of therapy, you want to make sure that those people can also guide you as well. And the fourth thing is know what you can and cannot do. You sit at an airplane, and you have the door there and they tell you if it's an exit. The great thing is you have lots of room, but if there was an emergency, your job is to get everybody else off the plane. You're going to have to really access, like, am I in a situation now where I can help other people, or do I need to just focus on me? That means you might have to tell some people, no, you know what? I can't do that right now. I need to focus on getting myself together. I can't go with you guys to do those things because I am not in a good space and I have to really focus on getting myself together. So those are the 5 tips that I will give people. And that goes for man, woman, boy, or girl. I definitely encourage people to tune in because you're going to hear more of what I just gave you.
I love it. I love it. This is good. And ladies and gentlemen, I know it seemed like a lot, but I know you're at different places, and we all have another gear, and we all hold a belief we can get a little bit better. And not only that, but we got to overcome adversity every day. With that being said, we have a segment here, Don, called Today is My January 1st. Now, I know you may have heard the segment. Some of you are watching. You wait for 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can't wait for this moment to be able to say those words that today is my January 1st. Doesn't that feel so good? And for others of
Yes.
you, you're joining for the very first time. So welcome to the Happy Entrepreneur family. We're so glad to have you here. Today is my January 1st is one of our personal mantras. It represents a fresh start. It represents a do-over. It means the past, no matter how dark, no how gloomy, no matter what's happened, the past no longer equals the future. So the question I have for Dr. Dawn Sheree on the other side is, when you hear those words, today is my January 1st, what do you hear? And number 2, what's another challenge, another adversity, another setback you had in your life? And then how did you bounce back from that? We want to know.
Yeah. So my January 1st, I'm excited about it. I get to start over. I don't know if you ever remember those Etch a Sketch when you get to draw all those things on it and then you clear it out and you get a whole fresh start. That's my January 1st. However, with that January 1st, I am determined to only fill it with people who are willing to invest into me. And I'm going to say that again. I don't think it's anything wrong with that. I cannot wait for January 1st so I can have a clean slate and fill it with people that are willing to pour into me, because then I will be able to pour into others. And for so long, up until January 1st, I have given so much of myself selfishly because that's what I'm supposed to do. But I have forgotten self care. I've forgotten how to take care of Dawn. And I have made it my business to make sure, actually, my January 1st started last week. I made a point that I'm going to be around people that can pour into me. That could be for anyone looking at this podcast right now, or even signing up for the Comeback Champion Summit. You just make a decision that you want people pouring into you, and that's the best place to do it. So that's what my January 1st looks like. Hopefully some others are with me and they're ready to sign up and say, I want my January 1st to look like that too.
I love it. I love it. When you're not out saving the world and counseling and talking to other folks, what do you do for fun these days?
I like to go hiking, although I don't get a chance to do it as much. I love fishing, but it's way too cold. But I really like campfires. I just like cozying up under a very heavy blanket and just watching campfires. I like the crackle of the fire and the smell of it, and especially if it's a high altitude somewhere where the phone doesn't ring, because it really forces me to focus and be mindful of everything around me.
And where do you like to hike? You can't leave us hanging there, by the way. People are like, hey, where should you like to
No.
hike? What type of fish you like to catch? I mean, we're just all curious.
Yes, so there's one of my favorite places in Pennsylvania. So I'm a Philly girl and I currently live in Delaware, but there's a place called World's End State Park. From my house, it's approximately maybe 3 hours or so, but it's not a long ride, and it's a beautiful, beautiful place. And you can either, some people are just not camping people. Like they rather be in a cabin or a hotel, but they have both. If you want to have like glamping is what some people call it, they do have places like that up there where you can go to a hotel and still experience the nostalgia of nature. But then there's if you want a tent, if you want to use your pop-up, they have all of those resources available so you can do that. But I kind of like roughing it. I'm a rough girl. I like to put up a tent and build a fire.
Yeah, I love it, by the way. And, one of my favorite questions to ask is what's one of the best pieces of advice you've ever been given? And so I can frame it for the audience. Dr. Sheree's has so many mentors along this journey of life, and we all have. I'm always curious of all the mentors you've had, of all the books you've read, and some folks you may have only been able to meet online. What's one of the best pieces of advice you've ever been given?
There are so many, so many. I keep thinking of my dad and my grandmother. There's so many, but if I had to choose just one, I would have to say it would be Martin Luther King's just take the first step. He said, just take the first step. You don't have to see the rest of the stairwell. Just take the first step in faith. And I think that's so important because I can say, even for myself, I can get stuck in that. I'm trying to get it done, and you're in that kind of quicksand, burning your tires. But it's true. If you just take the first step, even any fog, as you keep going, the way will clear, the path will clear. So I think that has to be the best advice that I was ever given. And I've been given many, but that was the one that stands out the most.
I love that. Some people struggle with consistency. You may have heard that consistency is the key. Consistency is
Yes.
the key. Consistency is the key. And having said that, what do most people struggle with most, myself included, ladies and gentlemen? I'm raising my hand. So this is a question for Shay Brown, which is, what's your advice or what do you share with folks that, yeah, they want to overcome adversity. Yeah, they want to keep going, but that consistency seems to pop up and creep up over and over again. So I guess the question is, what's one of your best ways of being consistent?
I'm going to be honest. That's something that I'm actually still working on. And I think that's just that, just consistently taking the first step. And I say that because most people would say, well, if you keep taking steps, it's not the first step. Well, for some of us, it is. Some of us, it's just every day you're literally taking the first step. So I have to consistently keep reminding myself that it's going to be okay, that I'm okay, that the path will be made for me, that I'm going to be all right. Just keep taking that first step. So that is the consistency for me, just reminding myself every day, give myself space and grace to keep moving forward.
Great. This is so great. I just love this, by the way. I love this. Now, do you have any favorite affirmations that you love to say that you like to tell yourself, by the way? Any one or two
Yeah.
affirmations that
So this
kind of
is
keep
like,
you going, keep you inspired? Now, again, it's so unfair to say, let me just grab one, Shay, but I'm just curious. Sometimes people, you gave us the poem earlier, which I love, by the way, but sometimes people have an
yeah.
affirmation or a word
Mhm.
that, hey, this is my go-to. What's one of yours?
A little tidbit fact about me. I have a little tattoo, very small. No one would know it's there, but it's actually Superman. And it just reminds me that no matter how strong and powerful we think we are, we just have to be mindful of what our kryptonite is and to be understanding of when we need help, because there's moments when Superman becomes Clark Kent and needs help. And then there's moments when he is Superman and can do all things. And then there's moments when he has kryptonite and can't do a thing, but you have to know how to operate in each domain. So it has to be aligned with this. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. That's my quote.
Ah, I love it. As we come down the home stretch,
Yeah.
two-part question. Number one, what type of clients are you looking to take on these days? Is it the parents? Is it organizations? And number two, how can folks best connect with you? How can they stay in this conversation over and beyond the time that you and I have?
Yes, that's a great question. So I'm actually fortunate. I am working with not just individuals, I'm working with corporations, I'm working with organizations. The best way to reach me, just call me. I'm going to give you my number. It's 302-546-4357, which spells help. Again, I'll give it to you one more time. It's 302-546-4357, or you can email me at www.Dawn, and doctor is just Dr. Dawn Sheree, Sheree, at gmail.com, or you can simply go to my website and Dr. Dawn Sheree, www.drdawncherie.com, and fill out just not a survey, but a quick form, and it'll get right to me, come right to my phone.
Yay, I'm super excited. This is so cool. I love the work you're doing. Thank you so much for being on the Happy Entrepreneur Show. I can't wait to have you back again.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you. Thank you to the audience. Thank you for tuning in. I want you to know, as you're watching right now and as you're tuning in, you're amazing. You're all incredible. I never get tired of sharing with you at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time every night that you've got so much greatness inside you that today is your January 1st. And because of just that one reason alone, your best is still yet to come. Your best is yet to come. Your best is yet to come. With that being said, my name is still Shay Brown, the Happy Entrepreneur. Make it a great day, everyone. And we'll make some good things out. We connect again next time. God bless. We wish you success. Bye-bye. Thanks a lot, Dr. Don. We out.